Well, good morning and welcome to Timeout this morning. I hope that you're drinking a hot cup of coffee with me this morning as you take time out of your schedule. And I want to ask, can AI replace God? Now, if you're watching from a YouTube and you press subscribe, thank you. For those that comment and share often on all the other platforms, I just want to give you a shout out this morning and just say that you are helping me to make social media a more positive medium. And as you may know, Timeout is all about being positive and sharing the positivity. So once again, thank you very much. Now, can AI, artificial intelligence, replace God? And that's something that you need to answer, and I'm going to show you, so don't go away. Now, artificial intelligence, AI, is not new. It's been around for a couple of years. It's, as a matter of fact, it's in many devices. But what is making AI and artificial intelligence stand out at the moment is the amount of development that is going on in that domain. And it's almost like many wealthy people and organizations are seeing the value of the finances in AI and apparently are pumping billions and billions of dollars into that technology. So it's really growing and developing. And so the question that we pose is, can AI one day replace God? Now, I just want to take you back to a story in the Bible, in Exodus, where you look at Israel in bondage under the nation of Egypt, and they cry out to God, and he sends them a deliverer called Moses. And Moses leads Israel out of Egypt, which was a country of many false gods that they had to serve. And then they get to Mount Sinai, where he leaves them and he goes up the mountain to get the 10 commandments from God. And it takes a bit of time. And the people at the bottom of the mountain get impatient because they want to serve a God. And so because they're used to that. And so they melt all their gold and they make a golden calf, as maybe you've read before. And they start to bow down to this calf and they start to worship this calf. And of course, when Moses comes down, he is disgusted because he sees them reveling and drinking and dancing and bowing down and worshiping this calf. And he says to them, are you going to serve this God? And so, the question that we pose this morning, is AI able to become a false god on the earth? Now, let me just say, I'm not against artificial intelligence. I'm not against the fact that it could be helpful. I'm not saying it's necessarily evil. I'm asking, what is our perspective? If you're a Christian this morning, you're listening to me, what is your perspective about artificial intelligence, and how will that one day develop in the world? And that's a good question. Now, there is a scripture that says, I like this scripture, Malachi 3:6. It says, I am the Lord, I do not change. And AI is still being developed. It is still changing, but God of the Bible doesn't change. The God that you serve doesn't change. Now, they say that AI has the potential to take 300 million jobs in the short term. Your jobs, my jobs. You may be listening this morning saying, and not just that, eventually they're predicting up to 1 billion jobs. And you may ask, Jack, how will that affect my job? Well, I think that if it gets to 1 billion jobs, it's probably going to affect most people on the planet. But I want to encourage you this morning, because how do you move away from the real God to serve another God? And of course, the first step would be to put your trust in that thing. And recently they've developed this chat GPT technology, and it's also a bot. And people are saying, well, there are many bots out there, but what makes this unique is that it is not a pre-programmed bot. It actually has the ability to assimilate information and come to a conclusion and give its opinion. In other words, it can practice artificial intelligence by itself. And so what I'm saying is it possible one day that we're going to put our trust in intelligence like this? And when you put your trust in something, it's the first step of creating a new God. And of course, the second step is when you bow down to something. And if we're going to bow down to this technology one day, and then of course the third step is that you worship a thing, then you're starting to move away from who God is to a false God. And of course the last step, as Moses said to them, are you going to serve this thing? Are we going to eventually serve technology, artificial intelligence? Because then it has replaced God in our lives. But I want to say to you this morning, and you may ask me the question, Jack, can AI replace God? No, never. And the reason is, it's just like it says, it is an artificial intelligence. If you're a Christian listening to me this morning, you were created as the real McCoy. You are not artificial. God created you in His image. You are the real intelligence, and you were created in the image of the living God, the Jehovah of the Bible, the Elohim of heaven, the Yeshua. You were created in God's image. And yes, artificial intelligence can never replace God in your life. But if one day we start to put our trust in AI, if one day we start to bow down, if one day perhaps you say, I'm going to worship AI, if one day perhaps you say, I'm going to serve AI, then maybe you have taken a step to replacing God with another false god called AI. But I believe this morning, when I think about that scripture where Paul writes in 2 Timothy 1:12, in the latter part, he says, I know who I have believed in, and I am persuaded that He is able to keep that Jack which I've committed to Him against that day. I know who I've believed in this morning. Know who you have believed in. Know who you bow down to. Know who you worship, and know who you serve. And then AI can never be a challenge as a God. My name is Jack Windt. You've been watching Timeout, and I'm going to catch you next week.